Hello, Oregonians, and welcome to Life and Legislation with Lucetta. If you've ever wanted to get to know your politicians personally or understand what it is they are actually doing, then you're in the right place. I'm your podcast host, Jessica Campbell.
I'm your State Representative for House District 24, Lucetta Elmer.
This podcast is a place for you to get to know Representative Elmer, both personally and professionally.
We want Oregonians to feel connected with and educated about their state politics. So we're so glad you've joined us on a fresh new podcast adventure as we cover all things about life and legislation.
We just wrapped up a short session, and I had a chance to go to the Capitol and record some episodes with some of Representative Elmer's team. Well, today I'm back in the studio with Rep. Elmer. So excited to have her back because for those of you who have followed, you know that the last time we recorded with Lucetta, we were talking about the state report card and also some of the bills she was putting forward for the short session. So now we get to circle back, find out what happened during this crazy 35-day period, what bills passed, what bills didn't pass, what happened to her bills, some community wins for our specific area, and some other fun facts that we always find out when we talk about all things life and legislation. So with that, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's so good to be back in the studio with you.
I made it. Yes. I'm still alive. Still standing.
It was a marathon sprint.
I don't think I have the correct adjectives for what it was, but all of those and more.
Yeah. It was 12-hour days,
At least.
lot.
Yeah.
And you all must be beyond exhausted.
Well, feeling good now. It's been 2 weeks removed, so yeah. I promptly booked 5 nights up in Leavenworth for as soon as it was over. I did that last summer, knowing I would need that.
Smart.
Yes, and that was helpful.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we have so much to cover, but I almost feel like I have to start with this new piece of information that I just learned because pretty soon you have to take new photos.
Yes, very important because as you see right here, so that photo is 4 years old.
Yes.
And when I was getting ready to get my voter's pamphlet statement things correct, or my statement and whatever else you need for the voter's pamphlet, one of the things you need is a photo. And so my campaign person was like, send me over the photo you want. And I said, well, just use the photo we always use. And he said, okay, and I don't mean this in any other way, but I just need to ask the question, is it over 4 years old? I'm like, what are you saying? Have I...
Do I look so different?
He goes, well, I'm just saying that it's against the law if it's over 4 years old. And I was like, I mean, it's close. And really, like, I don't know, how are they going to know?
Date that you took the photo shoot?
It doesn't matter. And he said, well, it is a felony. And I was like, okay, then just to be sure, I'm giving you this one that I took last month because I wasn't made for prison. I don't need that. I don't think I would do well there. I can do short session, but not prison. No.
Oh, no, let's keep you out of prison.
Yeah.
This is good. When you think of all the things that, gosh, this is a rabbit trail, but all the things that are legal, but a photo that's over 4 years old is not legal. And we were laughing about this before we started recording that, what would happen if they made those rules for dating sites?
Yeah, exactly. We would,
Felony. You're using an incorrect photo.
Yeah.
What does that mean for AI photos?
I don't, well, that's a whole topic within the legislature about how we're handling AI and how there's a lot that needs to be done because of AI. AI has altered our world.
Yeah. That's a whole other episode. I feel like we just started 7 different episodes. I'm sorry.
Probably. That's good, though. That's good.
It's just been too long since we've been in the studio together. Yes. I miss our time.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, Oregonians. Well, we are going to go through a little overview, right?
Yes.
And just for everyone to know right away, there's no way we're going to be able to cover every single bill that was passed and every bill that did not pass during this session. The list is insane. It's huge. But I will tell you that we were going to put a link in the episode notes of every single topic and then all the bills that fall under that particular topic so that if you're curious, you can click on them. The topics include behavioral health, business and consumer protection, civil law, courts, criminal justice, early childhood, education, emergency preparedness, energy and environment, general government and elections, healthcare, housing development and homelessness, human services, labor and employment, natural resources, transportation and infrastructure, and veterans. And that is a long list. And this is put out by LPRO.
LPRO. LPRO is nonpartisan, so they work within the Capitol building. There's a massive amount of people that work there that keep everything going, you know. And they are nonpartisan.
And from a very type A educational person, the way they broke this down I thought was super helpful. It's really easy and clear to read. You click on each topic that you're interested in. It gives you a little icon to show if it passed or if it didn't pass, and then a short description of what it means.
Right.
So we're going to cover a little bit of that, but for anybody who just really wants to, geek out on all things legislation, you can dive deep and learn all of that. But let's start actually with the community wins.
Okay.
Because every representative is going into a session trying to get some wins for their own district, right? And even though you are the minority leader and really looking out for the entire state of Oregon, you are still the representative for House District 24.
Yes.
And went to bat for House District 24 on a couple of things.
Yeah.
So what big wins do you have for our community?
Yes, it was good. Very excited because, yes, as minority leader, I am going to bat for every Republican representative to have a take-home win, and they all will submit their possibilities. And so I go in and I negotiate on behalf of them. And my goal this year was to try to get every Republican legislator a win. But also for House District 24, I want wins too. So it was great. The Senate Minority Leader is Bruce Starr, who is my senator, the senator for this House district. So he and I together are the two minority leaders in the legislature. So it was fun for us to be able to go in and really bring some take-homes for the community. So we brought money in for Lafayette. They were under a DEQ advisement for some water infrastructure. There's money for McMinnville to finish out Alpine to do some more work there. And then money for Carlton for some infrastructure that will help their school as well as housing development that's happening. And then for the state of Oregon, I worked hard alongside Senator Starr to make sure that we had $1.8 million to help eradicate the Japanese beetle, which was the top item for ag in this state. That was a huge request, and we worked really hard on that. And then the one that I'm probably the most excited about was, for several years, legislators have tried to release the cap on lottery dollars that go to all of the community fairgrounds, and the county fairgrounds, sorry. And there's a 1% that is designated from our lottery funds that goes to that, but there's a cap on it at $1.5 million. And this year, we were able to remove that cap, so we get the full 1%. So practically speaking, county fairgrounds in the past have received about $40,000 to $50,000 every biennium. Right now, they're going to receive about $500,000 every biennium forevermore. And so to be able to plan projects and to be able to take care of maintenance that has been way too deferred, this is huge for our county fairgrounds. And I was very excited to get that win.
Yeah. That's one of those great examples about numbers where 1% sounds like nothing.
Right.
But when you're thinking 1% of a massive number,
right,
that makes a huge difference. And probably most people didn't even know there was a cap. And what does that look like when it plays out?
Yeah, some of the bills, we had this session where people are going for certain percentages of dollars that would, go into one bucket. They're taking it down to, well, we just want 1/4%. And you're like, 1/4%, but it comes out to millions because it's a massive budget.
Yeah, and that's why you have to look at both a percentage and the raw number.
Right.
To have the complete picture. We've talked about this so many times with everything in the government world. Things always get presented with maybe one piece of the puzzle, and that piece is true.
Yes.
You just don't have all the information to make an informed decision because, often sides are just going to give you one part, the part that fits what they're looking for.
Right.
And you need all the pieces of the puzzle.
I think about that. And the perfect example takes me back to my childhood when my dad would say, "Did you eat your dinner?" "Yes, Daddy." but the dog ate some too. I just didn't tell him that. And I think of that so many times in government. Like, they ask a question, you present something that's
Right.
not false, but it's not the whole picture.
It's not the whole picture.
Yeah.
It seems like today so many people are wanting the full picture.
Yes, yes. Government transparency is top of mind for many Oregonians, as it should be.
Yeah, they want to be able to see everything, which is why we're sharing so many of these links, so many of these resources.
Right.
It's hard to have time to look through it all,
It
but
is.
when you do, I have learned so much, and you just sort of see behind the curtain and the way things work, how it happens, what the rules are, rules that you think are rules that aren't rules, and vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So let's talk about some of these bills. Why don't we start with the two bills that you put forward, because
Okay.
we did talk about that when I got to go to the Capitol and do an episode with you in your office.
Yeah.
And you shared about the two bills you got to put forward.
Yeah.
Quick review for anybody who had maybe forgotten. During a short session, each representative or each legislator can bring forward two bills, and that's it. They only get to bring forward two. And then we get to find out what happened with your two and what the future is for those two goals.
Yes. So yes, I had two bills. IVF was one of my bills, so in vitro fertilization, helping families have more children and be able to walk through that process and have it covered through insurance. That has been a topic in the legislature for quite some time. This year, we went further than we had before, and I really do see a path in our very near future where we get that bill across the finish line. Unfortunately, it didn't happen this year, but the conversations that I was able to see behind the scenes, and now sitting on the Full Ways and Means Committee, which is where this bill ended up, not making it out of, but understanding what it needs to get out of that committee for 2027 was great for me. And I will be doing a work group with your help during the interim, so that we can make sure that all stakeholders get all of their questions answered, that we have been even more thoughtful in how we write this bill so that it's workable for all, and then pass it in 2027.
Right, and as you said, this has been going on for years. People have been wanting to have some kind of insurance coverage for fertility treatments, and there's so many different people who go down that path for a lot of reasons. And then there are people that have concerns, obviously budget. And you mentioned the interim, and I think this takes us back to one of our very first conversations, where technically you're not working right now.
That's not true. I'm not in Salem. I'm not in the legislature, but yes, I am very much working.
You are very much working, but your role is technically
Correct.
part-time.
Correct.
And you are technically only paid for this part-time work.
Yes, a very small amount. It's public service. Yes.
Very small amount for, we're going to pay you for quote-unquote 35 days.
Right.
But as you mentioned way back in one of our first episodes, if you want to get anything done, you're working the entire interim, all of these months that you're supposed to have off in order to make something work the next session.
Yeah, and that's also just a portion, because I have all my constituents, and each representative has around 70-some thousand constituents, and they have one representative.
Right.
So if they come up with a problem, or like an example that I get quite often would be helping people navigate their unemployment benefits. But it could be anything. It could be, hey, I'm struggling with whatever, and I don't know what to do. And so, often we're a liaison to get them to the right department, or we are helping them troubleshoot, or we're just fielding their vents. They like to vent on how frustrated they are with, oftentimes it's more of a national issue, and reminding people that while we very much care, I can't do anything about that. That would be for our U.S. representatives and senators. Not that I can't talk with them and put in a good word. And I welcome all constituent response, and love to just listen and hear where they're at, hear what is so important to them, and work on whatever we can. But if there are things that we could work together on to create a law in Oregon that would solve something, then that's in my wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
Taking on the role of the minority leader has definitely set me in a different lane than the rest of the representatives, because when we're not in session as a representative, then yes, you are talking with constituents or going to meet and greets or talking with your local leaders. You're doing all the things. But as the leader, then there's several layers on top of that. And I know I've said this before, but guess how much I make? Guess how much more I make?
Right, you took on this extra role and you get this big raise,
no,
right?
It's nothing because it's public service. And I just laugh at it. It doesn't matter, but I do think it's funny.
Well, and I've used this example as I've explained to other people your promotion, right? And I said, imagine being a teacher and you got promoted to principal, but you're still also the teacher.
Yes.
You're still teaching your class,
right?
But you're also the principal of the school, and that's usually not how it works.
And we're not going to pay you anymore.
No. You're going to have both roles,
right?
Teach your classroom full time and be the principal of all the schools, which is kind of what you do. You are still the representative of House District 24. That didn't go away.
No.
But now you're also leading everybody else in your party for the whole state. With no raise.
Yeah. And this is a election year, so then I'm in charge of all of those races at the top level, at the most senior level. I mean, obviously I'm not boots on the ground for every single race, but coming up with the strategy for those races, helping candidate recruitment, several meetings every single week with all the different pockets of groups of people that are making those races run. So so it's a lot. It's fascinating. It is. It's energizing. But it is a lot.
It is a lot.
Hence why I booked Leavenworth last summer. When I found out this was my new future, I said, okay.
You're going to need to recoup. You look so much more relaxed and rested and glowing.
My shoulders. There's a whole nother episode. I could give you a commercial on where I went because everyone should go.
We should put that in the episode.
Right, yeah. Called The Post.
Well, anybody who's had a hard run with whatever needs a little break there.
Great.
So your second bill was about education.
Correct. Second bill was about education. It was setting up grant opportunities where people could donate money, and then that money could be used for any student going to any school, public school, private school, charter school, whatever, to help with supplies, to help with tuition, to help with whatever the help needed to be. And that is something that aligns with a concept that came from the Trump administration, and many states are going in this direction, including Democrat states, because it really does mean millions of dollars to each state for education. It's great. Unfortunately, I couldn't convince the Democrats in Oregon to go ahead and line up with this one. It doesn't mean that our governor won't. And I suspect she might, because we've seen states like Maine and Colorado and deep blue states, and the governors still say, I need to do this for the betterment of the state and the education within our state. So I'm hopeful that our governor will follow suit, and she has a little bit of time to keep doing that. My bill was just a little more of a for sure thing and making sure that it got done. And it didn't even get a hearing, so.
Now, you did have something else related to education that did get a hearing and made it all the way through.
Yes.
With Dolly Parton.
Yes, the Imagination Library, which honestly we had done a few years ago, but we passed the funding part and not the policy part. And so I don't know why. That didn't make any sense to me. But Leader Bowman, the majority leader, and I are both very passionate about early childhood education and early literacy. And so together we championed that bill and got it across the finish line.
And that's such a good example of working across party lines, where this had really nothing to do with party politics. This was about kids and books.
Yes.
Something that hopefully everyone can just celebrate.
Yeah, get on board with. Because all kids 0 to 5 get a free book in the mail every single month.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And we could go on that rabbit trail again as two teachers talking about the importance of reading to kids and just having that early literacy, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big bills that all of Oregon was following was the transportation tax.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do need to give that update, because it seems like even still on social media, I'm still seeing new things, and I'm still trying to follow where are we? Now we're in there's maybe a lawsuit. What happened to the lawsuit? Where is it going? So where did we leave off with this transportation bill, and which ballot it's going on and so forth?
We're on like season 3, episode 5.
Of the transportation
of the
bill.
transportation drama. Yes, and I will answer that, but also just because this flashed through my mind, and I'm sure we'll mention it again, but I do have 2 town halls coming up where we will go into greater detail of this, as well as policy and wins and losses from the session. So April 7th here in McMinnville at Stillwater, and I'll be with Senator Starr and Representative Scharf, like I was last time. And then April 23rd, Senator Starr and I will be out in Willamina, the fire station. And so hopefully people can attend those and go even further into all of the lovely things in the legislature. But the ODOT, gas tax, transportation, all of those topics were very much top of mind during session. Even before we went into session, Senator Starr and I were meeting with the governor and the presiding officers to talk about what it looks like in ODOT land. Because to back up, just so everyone is refreshed,
Previously
there was a bill,
on episode 1.
Yes, there was a bill that did not make it through long session, and that was to raise the gas tax. So the governor called us back into a special session last summer and railroaded it through. It was a very partisan vote, not one, right down the line. And Oregon was mad. Oregonians kept saying, we testified during long session we were mad, and now you brought this up in a special session and did it anyways. We're mad. We're going to use our other option. They used their voice. They signed a petition in the freezing cold month of December, and they needed 70-some thousand. They got 250,000 in a little over a month. So clearly Oregon spoke. But when they qualified enough signatures, then immediately the bill halted. So even though that bill was passed last fall, late summer, early fall, that would have raised the gas tax, that would have went into effect January 1st. Because all of those signatures were collected, January 1st came and the gas tax didn't happen, meaning then there weren't dollars going into ODOT. So there were dollars going into ODOT. This is like, but Dad, I did eat my dinner, and so did the dog. There were dollars in ODOT, and that is what we kept saying all along. The budget had to be solidified already and balanced. So these dollars, they were already there for the exact time, for the moment in time that was happening. Now, looking out further for the next budget, that's what we were talking about. So we didn't need to cut jobs. We didn't need to say that, snowplows weren't going to be on the road. They were. Nobody got stuck because snowplows were on the road. ODOT didn't lose any jobs because of layoffs. Now, people left ODOT on their own will, but there were no layoffs. However, we did start having meetings right away on what does the future look like. And as a business person, I'm like, okay, let's look at the whole entire budget. And that was not something that we were going to do. That was completely, I was told no, over and over and over. So there was a media interview where I was with the speaker and the majority leader, just the 3 of us, and we had every major news station in Oregon that came to the Capitol, and it was right before session started. And I think we ran this on my socials, I don't know, but anyways, I was asked, aren't you at the table? Aren't you being asked to work together? Don't you have a seat? And I was just like, yes, we're at the table, but it's like being at a table that has a beautiful menu and a big feast, and you're allergic to everything. You have a food allergy to everything on the menu, but you're just told, eat it, like it, and forget your EpiPen. I mean, that is what being invited to the table was like. So we were there, we were in the room, and yes, we were able to give opinion, but the opinions that I felt would really make a difference and really balance and prioritize, I shouldn't say balance, prioritize our core functions of government, that was never an option we were given. So we could only work within the ODOT budget. And I don't know if we've said this here before, but I think it's worth saying again, 6 cents of every dollar is what goes toward, that's raised through our gas tax, is what goes towards core function. So you raise, you tax us on our gas, we're taxed. 6 cents out of every dollar that they raise, that they're getting revenue on, that's what's going towards the core function. which is crazy to me. I mean, that is not, again, it's priorities. So where does the other 94 cents go, one might ask? It goes to all kinds of things. Things like climate protection plan, DEI, safe routes to schools, which sounds great, but then when I looked into that one, I was like, so we're talking about sidewalks and things that really should be maintained through a city level or a local level. So just when you have this more behind closed doors look at how our money is being prioritized and managed, it was even more discouraging for me.
Sure.
So we got through that, didn't really even talk about it out in the public until the very end of session because we were told not to. Now we can talk about it. But there really, there wasn't anything significantly that was passed during short session that addressed the money part of ODOT. What was passed was Senate Bill 1599.
Which everyone's been seeing all over social, which is this vote going to be in November or May?
Exactly. So one might say, who cares? Like, why are you spending so much time over when the vote is? And why aren't you putting that much effort into how are we solving what we thought was the money crisis? Right. I think that's a really good, if we stop and think about that, I think that's a really good indication of where priorities are within our current government structure. And it's about how do we hold on to power. I mean, the Democrats know that if that vote is on the general ballot in November, right alongside the governor's name, that is not a good look. They know that. They know that. So they did everything they could, and they succeeded to make sure that that vote would not happen at the same time Oregon is being asked to elect the next governor or to extend Governor Kotek's reign. So they moved it to May. And we said that is unconstitutional. Like, Oregonians signed this referendum to put it on the ballot, and it said November. It said general election. So you can't move it. But they did it. And we fought it, and we did all kinds of things, and we tried our very, very best. It passed. We challenged it in court. Within a couple days, it was kicked out and said, nope, nothing to see here. This is fine. But it's beyond me how Oregonians can say, this matters enough to us that we are going to come together collectively and make our voice heard. And we have this process that when that happens, the people become the legislature. I, as a legislator, no longer have the power to write the law, the people. And yet, that was taken away from them. And I just think that is so, so sad. So that's where we're at now. We lost that fight, and I think everyone's aware, but just in case they're not, I mean, not only do we live in a state where the legislature is a supermajority, the whole entire government is a supermajority. The executive branch, the judicial branch, our attorney general, our judges, our Supreme Court, the legislature, all of it is a supermajority of Democrats. And Democrats is not a bad word. I do not think that, but I'm just pointing out that there is not a balance in this state. We are sorely, sorely missing a balance. And it is an election year. And my job as the minority leader in charge of races is to try to balance that and try to win some seats where we would have more of a balanced representation in the legislature. And I think it would be phenomenal. Not because I'm a Republican, but because I think the balanced voice, and when you have to like duke it out and have these intense conversations because you and I don't agree. So why should you get to put forth your idea? I don't agree with it. And we would have to compromise. And we would have to come to something that you can live with and I can live with. That is what I want.
Yeah. And just for anybody who maybe got lost for a moment, there's a difference between a majority and a supermajority.
Oh, yeah.
Just like a difference between a minority and a super minority.
Right.
And not that long ago, it was a majority minority.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, in the last election, it switched to a supermajority, super minority.
Correct.
And if I'm putting this in way too simple layman's terms, it essentially means that if you have a supermajority, that you can kind of do whatever you want I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying that.
You can, in a majority or a supermajority, you can pass anything you want because you have enough votes to pass it without the other party's vote. But the difference is in a supermajority, you can even pass a tax. Because when we're passing bills, all bills that don't require a revenue increase, a tax, those are passed with a simple majority. So there's 60 representatives, you need 31 votes, one more than half, simple majority, and you pass the bill. So if whichever party's in the majority, they have enough votes to pass their bills. Now, if you have a supermajority, you've crossed over to the number land of having enough to even pass tax bills without the other party's vote.
Right.
And that's where we are.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference, yeah.
On how things are talked about, how they're shared, and so forth.
But I think also, like, I'm not trying to just continue to just like jump up and down on this, but you think about that. We have a party that's in the supermajority, so they can pass a tax vote. They couldn't do it. They couldn't even do it with all of their own votes because they had people within their own party that they were like, we're hearing from our constituents and they hate this idea. They're saying Oregon isn't affordable and they can't handle this. So they couldn't even pass it with their own party. So then the governor was like, I'm not taking that for an answer, calls in a special session. You will do what I say. Boom. Oregon says no. And back to all of our signatures we collected, and then again you have this superpower that comes back in the short session and says, well, we know you collected these signatures, but we're going to switch it up a little.
If I heard correctly, watching some of the interviews and things, the argument to move it to May was to have more time.
Time
right?
for what?
To solve the problem.
The problem's been solved
because the money is already. The money is already taken care of for today.
For this whole budget.
The issue is the next budget.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is not an accurate argument. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But yes, that is what was said. I will say that the questions were asked. So let's say that we somehow kill Senate Bill 1599 and you guys don't get your way. And that is not on, it doesn't get moved to the May ballot. And the response was, we will have a special session and we will put it on a special ballot. It will never be in November. So to summarize. They are ahead and we're losing.
And this vote is going to be on the May ballot.
Yep, it'll be on our primary.
Which is coming up soon.
Yeah.
And it's the primary. Yeah. And so it might be worth, I know we have so many other things to talk about, but it might be worth explaining like that there is this primary election coming up.
Yeah.
So for anybody who is not affiliated, or maybe they are, and they want to change or do anything like that, what is the deadline for them to be able to register one way or the other or make a change in their voter registration in order to get this primary ballot in May?
April 28th would be the deadline to be able to register to vote or change your voter registration. But I would definitely check the Secretary of State's website because there are lots of different deadlines depending on what you are wanting to do. But for your specific question, April 28th.
We'll put that link in the episode notes in case anybody has maybe never registered or they want to check their registration, make a change on it, anything like that. And then they can get their primary ballot because they would be choosing who they want to, for the Democrats are choosing who they want to run for governor, which presumably Tina Kotek's running again, and that's their nominee. And then for the Republican side, there are several candidates that are going to run for the Republican governor, but then you have to pick which one you're going to.
We'll know after the primary.
Yeah.
So once the primary is done, then we'll have our one candidate, and the Democrats will have their one candidate.
Right.
And
then we get to watch really fun commercials for the next several months. Can that be a bill? Can the first grade teacher in me come out and say, can we pass a bill that no one is allowed to have a mean commercial?
Right. I think
Nobody.
A lot of
Either
Oregonians would appreciate that.
Like, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Yeah. Well, we are, we did pass another layer within the campaign finance reform land, which is talking about how much money you can spend or raise to spend in these, and commercials are very expensive. So
yeah. What was that a cap? Like it said you could raise more than you usually could, or less than you usually could?
No, it will be less.
Okay.
It's very confusing, I will say that. And we have a lot more work to do on it, but there are limits that go into effect in 2027. That part is true.
Okay. So clearly we haven't seen each other enough, because we went through this whole episode and there's this whole stack of beautiful papers we didn't get to yet. So
That's okay.
We have to come back.
Yeah, this was real, in the moment, interesting stuff.
Life and legislation with
Yes,
Lucetta.
yeah.
But our next episode, we'll start digging into some of these bills, what else passed, what else didn't pass.
Yeah.
And Oregonians, remember, we've got 2 town halls coming up, and that's where you get to sit and listen to our legislators face to face. You can bring your questions or concerns or just anything you're confused about, and they can go through some of this stuff in more detail. And we would love to see you at those. We're going to put all the details in the episode link as well. So April 7th and April 23rd, you're welcome at either or both. If you're within driving distance of McMinnville or Willamina, we'd love to see you there. It's important to know what's going on in state government, have your voices be heard, so that the representatives and senators know what really matters to you, and they can try to champion your voice with everything that we have coming up in the state of Oregon. So thank you again so much, Lucetta, for taking time to do this. We'll come back. We're going to have episodes more often now that you're in the interim, and then there'll be so many things coming up in the future to talk about campaign issues and who's running for what, and so much more.
Yes, yes. And we'll have some special guests.
We are going to have some special guests, and
Yes.
that's going to be really fun. So
Yeah.
we have so many exciting things coming up on Life and Legislation with Lucetta. But thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. We hope you learned something new and found some interesting facts about what's going on, and that you come back and join us next time for Life and Legislation with Lucetta.
Yay.